And the U.S. Department of Justice has launched an investigation into whether the biggest American technology companies have broken competition law. It's expected that the likes of Google, Facebook, and Amazon will be the focus of that inquiry. The news comes as Facebook is expected to be hit with a separate penalty of up to $5 billion over failing to protect users' data. Our business editor, Stephen Carroll, is here with me for more on this now. Stephen, first of all, what is the Justice Department investigating exactly?
The department says that it's acting on so-called widespread concern about search, social media and retail services online. Now, there are no companies named in the statement, but that very clearly points us in the direction of Google, Facebook and Amazon, who are respectively the biggest players in all of those areas. Specifically, investigators will be looking at how these companies achieved their market power and whether or not they use those powers to reduce competition, stifle innovation, or to harm consumers. Remember, these companies have billions of users. Their impact is massive. Department officials telling US media that this investigation doesn't have a defined end goal, and it may lead to a future, more narrow inquiry onto specific company conduct.
So what sort of penalties are we talking about here?
Well, there are many options open to the Department of Justice that could find, if they found that there was to be a breach of antitrust law or competition law in this investigation. It could, for example, impose a fine on the company involved. The maximum fine that's been historically given by the Department of Justice in antitrust cases was $975 million. The department could also require a company to act in a certain way that negates the anti-competitive behaviour. Or one of the things that the investigators will be looking at as well is how these tech companies grew in size over time. That's classic antitrust territory. Think, for example, of how Facebook bought Instagram and WhatsApp, adding hugely to the size of the company. It could potentially order a breakup of a company if it found that it was harming consumers. That option is considered still to be quite extreme and quite unlikely at this stage. I've heard experts in this area describe antitrust law as more of a sledgehammer than a scalpel when it comes to solving these problems. So we'll have to wait and see how these investigations develop.
And Stephen, this isn't the only investigation that these companies are facing at the moment.
We've known, in fact, for a couple of weeks that there would be an announcement coming from the Department of Justice. Shares in these companies had fallen as the rumours started to circulate in this area. And this is generally as there has been more scrutiny placed around these companies in recent months in the United States. Facebook is facing a separate case from another regulator, the US Federal Trade Commission. That's expected to be concluded today, when Facebook is expected to be given a penalty of up to $5 billion. That was over a case of misusing personal data. One of the allegations is that, for example, Facebook shared phone numbers of users where it wasn't supposed to, or the users hadn't been informed. Now, there are other investigations too underway, of course, outside of the United States. The European Union has taken a very different approach to this whole area. One example, Google has been fined more than €8 billion in 3 separate investigations in the European Union.